Dumelang Africa, welcome to Bitesize Democracy, a weekly show focusing on issues around democracy on the African continent. Our show gives you a snapshot of what's happening in Africa in fun, informative, bite-sized segments. Please do join us in conversation. Our hashtag is #BSDemocracy, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, the African Democratic Institute. Please welcome my co-host for today, Tinashe. Tinashe, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on today.
On today's show, we look at Botswana as they celebrated 50 years of independence on the 30th of September. Is Botswana really a democracy? Looking at issues like they've had the same ruling party for the past 50 years. The Botswana Democratic Party, also known as the BDP, has been in power for 50 years. And President Kama, is on the forefront of telling other African leaders to step down. Is Botswana really the democracy they say it is?
I think undeniably Botswana has been a shining light of democracy in Southern Africa, but recently there's been criticism leveled against the government in relation to the perceived reality in Botswana and its reputation as a democratic state. For example, you look at how the government has been accused of repressing the media, and also the opposition doesn't even really have resources to actually practice, and there's an issue of a political level playing field. In elections. You find that the opposition political parties don't have enough necessary funding during the elections, which is actually blamed on the Botswana Democratic Party, which is actually which only benefits from the private sector.
Going back to the 2014 election, speaking about opposition and journalists, I think Gomolemo Motsoaledi, who was an opposition leader leading up to that election, mysteriously died in a car crash, and there was a lot of questions surrounding that. And then there was another opposition leader who was abducted and found left for dead, like in a veld somewhere lying there. And there's been accusations that the BDP has been responsible for this. And there's also journalists who flee, and there's actually one who fled in 2014 and came and sought asylum in South Africa. Does this still make Botswana a democracy? The fourth estate, the media, all those things are not in operation. There's a lot of repression.
Yeah, and critics of Ian Kama have actually also looked at how the constitution actually he has extensive powers, which means he doesn't really listen to his other advisors, since he takes judgment on his personal level, which has actually made him an authoritarian leader, so to say.
For a population of 2 million people, I think they're one of the highest HIV rates in Africa. Unemployment. Does democracy not mean that people should have access to ARVs, people should have jobs, people should have, the economy should be growing? I find it really amazing that we still call democracy, we still call Botswana a democracy, when everything, all the democracy indicators, they do not tick those boxes.
I think those are many of the issues that are actually raised in Botswana, if it's really a democratic state. And you look at the parliament, the legislative, and the executive, it's actually dominated by the BDP, which is actually would question democracy, because the opposition, whatever they want to pass, they can be blocked by the BDP. So,
as one of the longest serving democratic parties in Africa in 50 years, surely they should have gotten it right. And also, President Ian Kama is the son of Botswana's first president. And as you're talking about the the executive, when the president's 10 years of ruling are up, the vice president becomes the president. Are they not just recycling the same people? Is this not institutionalized dictatorship?
I think BDP has also fallen in this bracket of when a political party becomes dominant in a country, they become more reluctant and they become less democratic. When you see the legislative also is dominated by one party, and the executive, whatever decision they need to make it's not going to be democratic in a way. And that's actually what has happened also in countries like Zimbabwe and ANC to a larger extent. Like something that the legislation needs to pass, if it's dominated by the dominant party, it's obviously going to serve the interests of of the ruling party.
And speaking of Zimbabwe, President Khama has been one of the only Southern African leaders who's been really vocal about President Mugabe stepping down. But looking at what we've discussed in this segment, should the BDP also not go?
I think consolidation of democracy relies also on another party coming into power. I think that needs to happen in Botswana for us to say Botswana is a democratic state. I think that's the next level of democracy in Botswana.
Absolutely. So we need, Botswana needs to raise an opposition party actually that can stand against the BDP.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us, Africa, and happy Independence Day, Botswana. Sala Sentle.